Welcome back. Sorry about the last depressing video, which I will have to remove because I got a copyright breachment on it. Anyway, we're on a different project. I did go to book my theory test the other day, but that went wrong on me. Didn't have the money in the bank, so I couldn't do it. So I'm going to readdress that. Now, I bought a new frame for this CB because the old one is absolutely shot to pieces and is absolutely dead dangerous. I'm not doing a full restoration because I don't have all the parts. Simple as that. And to get all the parts that's going to make this thing a value is just not going to be worth it. You can buy complete cb550s for as little as sort of 1500 for a good machine. I expect I'll probably pour at least 1,000 into this before it's ready for an MOT, and because of its age, I doubt very likely I will do that. I think this is going to be good enough and safe enough to use. Tax exempt, I believe MOT exempt. I am making some subtle changes on this because I don't have everything. So where am I going with it? Well, it's quite simple. I've been looking around. I was calling it a Steve McQueen tribute bike, is what I was calling it, but I don't think there is such a thing for something with this frame and being a Honda, because he was into the old British stuff. And they were trials bikes. Most of what he rode were trials bikes and Triumphs and stuff like that. So no, I guess it isn't going to be a tribute bike, but it's going to be something. So I want to do is a sort of a and I'm not into bikes to the level of some of you that are watching, I suspect. So what the scene would be, I don't know. Maybe you will tell me as I describe to you where I'm heading with it. Now, I'm on a tight budget with this. This is the purpose of this build, because I've already got one to ride. I will be doing my bike test soon. I'm reluctant to do it, but I think we need to do it because I want to get rid of the rat rod eventually. I want to get rid of the truck eventually, and I just want to concentrate on bikes because I just love them. I loved them since the first time I rode my first one, which was a PC50. When I was actually, that wasn't my first one. My first one was a Thomas moped. I had it all of one whole day and I seized the thing solid. Didn't know anything about bikes. That's the bizarre bit. Didn't know anything about bikes when I was younger. I was 16 years old. My stepfather bought me a Thomas 50 moped. And I can tell you where it come from. There was a dealer in Ipswich called Eddie. I can't remember his second name. He used to sell mopeds, Thomas mopeds. He was on Brantford Road in Ipswich. We are talking some years back. So any of you in Ipswich that are watching this will know exactly who I'm talking about. He then went on from mopeds over to golf carts, electric golf carts and stuff like that. And then eventually he shut his shop down. He was on Brantford Road in Ipswich, Suffolk. And he was just past the traffic lights as you head towards the town area. And he was a lovely man, a good conversationalist. Didn't know him that well, but my stepfather had some dealings with him because he was a Thomas dealer. That was my first moped, and I was heading. This is how it went down. My stepfather said, my mum said, Dad's got a surprise for you, and Dad said he's going to give me a moped. He got one in the garden. I don't know why he offered it to me. Me and him, we didn't get on very well. At all, if I'm honest, but one of my good memories of the man was him and these mopeds. He was a shit hot mechanic. I mean, there was nothing he couldn't put his hands to. He was really good at what he did. Yeah, he was a really, really good mechanic, and he knew his stuff. There was nothing he couldn't put his hands to. So he gave me, after helping me with the insurance and the tax, he'd already MOT'd the machine. He'd done it up. I think he got it as a semi-scrapper. And he'd done it all up and got it pristine, and I was over the moon with it. But I didn't know anything about insurance policies or how to do insurance policies at that time of life. So he set that up for me as well, and he put a tax disc on it, which probably cost all of about 10 quid, I would imagine, probably less than that. And first day of owning it, I rode it from his house in Brantford Village up to the YMCA, which is where I was living at the time, in a little side annex bedsit that they were running, and that's where it sat. The next morning I jumped on it and I rode. I decided to take the long route to college because I was working at a place called Otley College at the time, and I decided to ride it all the way through Kesgrave. Instead of cutting through the countryside, I decided to take it to Kesgrave, which was a longer route, and I had this big beamy smile on my face. I haven't forgotten it to this day, to be honest with you. And I was going along Kesgrave, and I was just approaching one of the roundabouts, newly built roundabouts if memory serves, and all of a sudden I felt the engine starting to slow down. I had the throttle fully open, and I was belting along at 40 mile an hour. It was a quick little machine, and then all of a sudden I could feel it. It was like a low droning noise, and then all of a sudden it just came to an absolute halt with me on it. I was already 7-8 miles, if not longer, away from my bedsit. So literally gutted. I was really gutted about it, and I pushed it all the way back. I mean, it had pedals, but I weren't going to. Memory serves, it had pedals. I'm pretty sure it had pedals. Might not have done. I can't remember that bit, but I remember pushing the damn thing all the way back down to Kesgrave, 8 miles back to my bedsit. Left it there. Rung in, told him I weren't coming in because the bike had locked, and got hold of my dad, and he was like, well, how the hell did you manage to do that? And to this day I don't know. I suspect it was lack of oil in the petrol. I don't know if it had a separate oil tank. I don't really know much about it. I didn't know anything about mechanics in them days, to be honest with you. Nothing. So yeah, basically he took it back and put it in his shed, pulled it apart. Yeah, I pretty much mullered the cylinder in that. Had in heat seize, it locked solid. Something, he said it was lack of oil, I don't know. And then he gave me another moped. He said, well, I think this one's going to be more bulletproof for your use because you don't know what you're doing. And he gave me an old early 1970s Honda cb550, which was a little 4-stroke, and I had that for a whole year, and I got into a lot of scrapes, and that was the beginning of me riding bikes, and I've had loads since then. A lot of low cc stuff. I did have an XS500. Now, I never passed my bike test, but I never rode that on the road, and that's the God's honest truth. That sat in the car park as a non-runner, and I ended up getting thrown out of that building where I was living in a different area, and that ended up going to a friend who bought it, and I don't know what he done with it. I've had a DT175, again, never rode it. Well, actually I did ride that one, but I never rode it on the road. I was living at an airbase, Rendlesham Airbase, Bentwater. Some of you guys in America that watch might know of that one. It's an American airbase. It closed in the late 80s, early 90s, I can't fully remember, and they sold the domestic site, and I was living in a house up there, but the domestic area of where people did their shopping and where some of the single soldiers would live, that was cordoned off, and they had security up there. So I used to ride the 175 onto the base and play kiss chase, so to speak, with the security guards. We'd rev the shit out of the bikes. You see these security guards running out of their building, jumping in their little Ford Escort van, and then we would just ride around the base, and we've got these morons trying to catch us, and eventually we would run off the base because I had these big concrete blocks. They couldn't get the car through there, so we would ride straight through those and then jump off and walk back and just laugh and snigger, because once we got off the base, that was their objective, was to get us off. So once we got off, they just ceased chasing us, just shout, stay off and all that. We'd go back a few more days later. But on one occasion, because I lost the 175, so-called good friend of mine set light to it by mistake, so he claims, I don't know what went through his head that day, but I ended up with what was it, I got to think, it was a GS. It was a GS. I think it was a GS 200 that I got from Colchester Motorcycle Breakers, and I was doing that all up into a Street Fighter style bike, and I went back over that base, and the young lad I had with me at the time had an X50. I think it was a Suzuki X50, and it wasn't the most reliable thing. That Suzuki had been sabotaged by a lady who lived right over the other end of where we lived. She didn't like him and sugared his fuel tank and stuffed some cleaning fluids and stuff in his oil. I really didn't like him, and we rode off over there, and the effect of what had happened hadn't occurred in the system. It was just starting to do stuff, and we went over there and we were just looking at the security hut. All their engines were off, and looked at the security hut, and we were revving, and then I fired the bike up and I started revving the crap out of it. He got his kicked over. It took a while. He got it running, and we then started to ride around a bit, and then as I left, he stalled his, and he couldn't get it going, and the security guards collared him, literally, and I believe they actually took him and the bike to the hut and called the cops on him. And I think it was about an hour later he turned up at my house, mouthing off like crazy because I left him there. You know what, I was 25 at the time, and he must have been 16, 17, something like that. That was absolutely hilarious. Just to give you an idea of some of the stupid things I used to do. I mean, another incident when I was 17, 18 years old, just before I went in the forces. I had a DT 100, and me and my mates, we used to camp out, and there was a BMX track near the campsite where we were camping. It wasn't an official campsite, it was just a field with a tree falling down. They went and stole a canvas lorry tilt off a lorry. Nothing to do with me, I wasn't involved in that. I just happened to turn up one day when I got invited, do you want to come camping? And there it was. They'd already set it up and already spent a good week or two on and off camping in this area. So I'm not a thief, I just wanted to elaborate on that. It was quite funny because we got into a lot of mischief up there. A mate of mine, John, he decided one day he wanted to take my motorcycle over the BMX track that they had, and there was another lad there who just had some fresh skin graft on his leg, and he come running back. He couldn't wait to grass John up that he'd nicked my bike, and I ran over there. I was furious. I was not impressed, and I got my bike back. John was laughing his head off. I was mouthing off at him, don't touch my bike. And I followed this little footpath. I don't actually think it was a footpath. I think it was something, a badger trail or something like that, and we followed it back and hit a little rut. I got my mate on the back who's got the skin graft, and all of a sudden that front wheel hit and that went sideways on me, locked, and the whole bike flipped in the air. I went that way, he went that way, and he just had that fresh skin graft. That poor bugger had ripped it completely open, blood all over his leg, and I can't really remember much what happened after that. I don't know if we took him to hospital or if he just went home, I don't know. He had an XL 125. Again, a lovely bike, and they were the things we used to get up to. Crazy days. I miss them dearly. I miss the people that I hung out with. Maybe it's 51 years of age. Am I 51 or 52? I can't think and remember. Maybe it's that age group that's making me wish we could go back to that, because I still feel up here 18, but the rest of it is telling me you ain't. You know what I mean? So yeah, a couple of little silly stories that I thought you'd enjoy. We were kids, simple as that. We got up with all sorts of mischief. So this machine is not going to go back. I suppose it's a midlife style crisis machine. It's going to take me to a bit of my youth. So we're going to put knobbly tires on this. We'll probably end up cutting that part off. We'll keep that one because that's the exhaust mount. I would like to make the exhaust differently so we could have it coming out at the back. That may not be an option. That may have to come out and go up. I want a luggage rack on the back with side bags, some kind of box on the back maybe. We're going to have homemade side panels because I don't think we can afford too much money. We've got a tank up there. It's completely the wrong tank. It's the wrong shape. It's the wrong everything. But if it does come to the fact that I'll be using it, I'll have to chop that about and we'll drop that on. I've got the headstock there. I'm actually looking for longer forks if I can get them, but I'm not sure that this is going to require them. I'm trying to build, it's a cross between a calf racer and a track racer, grass track racer type thing is where I'm going with this. It's not going to be built to do massive great jumps and stuff like that. At 52 years of age, I don't bounce no more. I hurt when I fall off. I hurt severely. At our ages and above, our bodies aren't made for what we used to get up to. But I am planning to use this as an exploring bike. There's a couple of airfields on what was my other channel, British History Hunting. There's a couple of airfields that I want to explore, abandoned airfields that have still got military equipment on there. And this would be the ideal machine to scoot across that grass in a hurry so I can get the cameras and film various things for that channel. So that's what this is all about. This is the one that's going on the back of the truck if I end up keeping it, or a small van, or even the car if it comes to it. So I need it light, I need it nimble, I need it quick, I need it relatively quiet. We don't want a noisy engine. So we do need to make this a little quieter. So the exhaust system for this is going to have to be rebuilt. exhaust, and as you can see it's a 4-into-1, and they've cut the can down and they've emptied it as well, because inside that box of crap somewhere is the silencer they took out. Now I do have a Goldwing exhaust system, what they call that, trumpet. I do have 2 of them somewhere around here, or 1 at least, so I might be able to cut that off there, take that bracket off. We will lose the chrome unfortunately, but we might be able to work it so we can put the Goldwing can on and lengthen its length significantly and make that a lot quieter. This is a 540 something cc engine. The Goldwing was 1000 cc, so that had a 2-into-1 each side, so that can should be capable of running a 500 cc without restricting this engine too much. So that's what we're going to do to try and save some money. I may even stainless weld that together as well, so we can try and keep some of the chrome effect. Now there are some bits on here that I haven't got that I didn't realise, like the centre stand. My centre stand don't fit this. Even this side stand is off another machine, but I managed to couple it together. But whether that's going to be a problem later on, I don't know. I would like to get the side stand for this, but it's like 60-70 quid just for that part alone. I've got other things to concentrate on. Side pegs, I don't have those, they're gone. The original frame that I had is totally destroyed. Somebody put forward controls on this. This one I believe was also converted over to a calf racer at some point, and I've got some mysterious dents all over the place on this as well, so I think it was involved in an accident possibly. Now I have cut this off and replaced it. This is the original one. You can see that the damage on there. So I've taken the old one off that frame down there and I've welded it onto there to replace that. Whether that stays or not at this point I can't say, because I don't know where I'm heading with the fuel tank and the seat at the moment. I do want a luggage rack and side bags on there, as we spoke about. The colour of the frame, I'm working between 2 colours at the moment, either going back to black or gunmetal grey, because I am liking this raw metal look. There is a metallic grey that would probably look really good on this, but I'm not sure whether the metallic grey will go with a metallic blue that I'm planning to paint the tank in, and anything else that goes on it. The engine, I want to polish that all up, and I'd have no clue if that engine's a runner. I may end up having to strip that right down and get rebores done and new rings and new pistons. This thing is going to escalate quickly in cost, which is why I don't want to do a restoration, because that would triple the price I'm planning in my head for this. Will be triple the price if I went on full-on restoration. We've got a lot of problems, like for example, whoever pulled that off hammered the hell out of the end of that, so I've got to devise a system to get that on the lathe so I can just mill that area off and reveal some good threading. Hopefully there'll be enough thread then to lock that headstock down. I do have some Suzuki forks over there which are a little bit longer than the Honda ones I got, but I'm not sure if I can fit that Honda wheel into that stud system, and also the speedo system as well might not work the same. I know the brakes won't work the same. It's got a floating front brake on this, I think is what they're called. I'm not 100%. So yeah, what you see is what you get with this, really. I'm looking forward to it. I will answer questions, but I don't particularly want to talk about the bike itself too much. I'm just building this up as my own personal hack around, is what this is going to be. I've got 2 bikes that are MOT worthy at the moment. We've got the Vegas tucked up at the back. We've got the Honda C70 there. I would like to give that a respray, but again, not sure if I want to go down that route at the moment. And we've got a KLR, an 80s KLR, which I can't find anything on the internet for at the moment. I need a frame. I want an English frame with a logbook, because there is no logbook with that machine, and I'm not particularly keen on building that up into a working machine to put it on Nova, because DVLA are just a pain in the backside at the best of times. I think I can be throwing money into that and still not get it on the road, because they will find some excuse. They always do. And with this new electric revolution going on, DVLA, from what I'm understanding from verbal rumours, are not doing their part to put old motors back on. I mean, I did recently build a trike for a chappie over the road. Everybody was saying that DVLA are not registering, but mine went through with no problems whatsoever. So you can't always listen to rumours. Okay. I just took delivery of my back brake mechanism. That came in a bit quicker than anticipated. That all goes onto there. I will need at some point to put the engine in, because I want to work out the foot pegs. Now, the original foot pegs somewhere along here, I'm not sure how it will work. Maybe they go onto here, I don't know. They're one single bolt, but I'm going to have to make my own. I mean, I could buy them, but we're talking another 50-60 quid for that. And we've got another problem, and that is this. When that person pulled this off, they chewed all the thread up. I'm also finding lots of parts that don't belong to this bike at all, and I'm not sure if this is the correct nut. It's not going on. The thread is really chewed up, if I'm honest. So I've just made an offer on eBay. There's one up there, £35, £6 postage. I've just offered him 30 quid, see what come back. That'll be my theory money gone out of the window. I get some more money next week, so I'll fill up the bank account, and we'll book it for next week instead. So yeah, I can't really do much more. I can put the swing arm on, but I think that's going to be a bit of a nuisance while it's in place. I don't have shock absorbers, so I can't even latch that on and put the back wheel in. Because we don't have the trees to the front, I can't put the front wheel in. I was going to do that, put the mudguard on, and I was going to lay the engine in. It's a bit of a nuisance. The bits that I know I'm definitely short of is now the tree for the front, the foot pegs, because they've got the gear selector on that, the seat, the tank, I'm missing that, the rear mudguard, the base mudguard, the battery tray. We're all missing that. The tail light, missing that. Headlight, we're missing that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff not on here. A lot. As for the engine itself, I think the gear selector is actually on the engine, isn't it, on this one? Am I right in thinking that? No, I am not. I think that... Yeah, I think that is a linkage. I'm not sure what's actually in here. I know I haven't got the original linkage. The linkage that I have got, I pulled off a CM185, I think it was. So I would have to have that engine in first in order to make some modifications. And to be honest with you, to save myself some aggravation, it might just be cheaper and easier just to buy the damn foot pegs, and then they are a straight bolt on. We don't gain nothing by making some one-off customs. We just don't gain sod all, really. So that's what I think we'll do, and that's going to be the last of the heavy spending on this, and the rest of it is just going to be other bits and bobs that I've got kicking around, really. Headlight I can source, tail light we can source. The mudguard for the back, I'd love a chrome one. I have some ideas though. We've got a trailer guard up there which we can paint up. I also have, and it might be a bit too wide and might look a bit stupid, but a stainless steel spare wheel cover for a 4x4. I might be able to convert that into something, who knows. So again, it might just be less aggro to buy another mudguard, but the problem with buying all this stuff is, one, I need the money, and two, it takes a while for everything to come through the post, which hinges the length on the videos. So there are going to be a lot of things I cannot show you. So the video is going to be far and few between, I'm afraid. I do apologise for that, but that's kind of the way it is. My friend's going to a bike jumble in a couple of weeks' time. He's going to have a look for a tank, but I don't raise much hopes in him finding one. I mean, all I'm interested in on the fuel tank is no rust inside. It doesn't have to have a cap. It doesn't have to have the pep tank. Oh, tap. That's the one. It doesn't even have to have that. I just need the tank, because it's actually quite an expensive part. And I don't understand why people are charging so much money for spares, second-hand spares. It's gone through the roof. I remember the days you could buy a frame for like 50, 100 quid. You can't do that anymore. You know, a fully registered frame. It's near on impossible. So, yeah. We'll put the swing arm on in a little while, and we'll put the back brake mechanism in place. We've done the side stand. I think at that point I might actually pick the engine up and put that in, and then we'll upload the video. There's nothing more I can do. Can't put the back wheel in until I've got some shock absorbers, because I've got no way of sitting it on the ground. Can't put the front wheel in because I can't put the trees in. It's they're mullered, totally mullered. Well, that one is anyway, and I haven't got the correct nut for the bottom half. Don't have that. I've also noticed that somebody has put different bearing sets in this. This is actually meant to have roller bearings in, and someone's put pin needle bearings in, tapered. I don't quite see the point in it. Hey, that's junk. I've ordered another one. I'll talk about that in a minute. Back brake mechanism's in. I have no manual for this. I am assuming I've got it correct. The cable clips onto that, or the rod, and I'm assuming the switch itself sits on the inside somewhere, but there's no carrier pot, so I don't know how that one works at all, if I'm honest. Looking at some pictures of these things, I think there is a bolt-on clip, but we can get around that one way or the other. I'm actually quite impressed with these parts that the guy has sent. They're really clean. Now, I haven't greased the shaft because we're going to paint the frame. Don't want that to interfere with the paint. I want to spend hours and hours getting rid of that. Now, this thing, I've ordered another one. Different bloke this time. I made an offer. He wanted, I've put it like this, I can't remember what he was asking for, but at the end of the day, I made an offer of 30 quid for it, and he made a counter offer of £33. He has, the miserable tight-fisted sod, has offered me a £1 discount. I mean, £1. Oh well, whatever. It was still the cheapest on the market that I found. So, yeah, that's junk. That is definite junk, and we're getting rid of that. So, new one on its way. We'll put these back in the boxes where they come from. The brake is on. The last thing I want to do today now is put the swing arm in place, and then we'll run a bolt through that. But again, no grease, because we've got to paint everything, and then we'll call it a day, and I'll knock the video up and chuck it out. It was a bit of a short and sweet video, really. I really wanted to get that seat pan done, but without a tank I can't. I don't know how or where anything's going to be sitting. I've reset the brake again. I still ain't got it in position where it really needs to be. It's still too high, I think. The foot peg, I believe, bolts onto that. Now I know what that's for, and probably locates into there, but I can't account for the other side because it's different. So I'm assuming the bolt that fits here is for the other foot peg, and that's the other locating lug. So that will be something I'll be ordering next week, which will be the foot pegs. That's the other essential item I need in order to put this together. I found a battery box, really cheap. I was going to make my own because I've got a battery up there somewhere that I want to use. I don't know where it is. There it is. It's in there. Is it in there? Yep. But I don't know if it's the right size battery for the battery box in question. We've still got shocks to get our hands on. They're another purchase item. So I was hoping to get the forks on today, because if I've got the forks on, I've got the handlebars on. So when I get the engine set in and I get the wiring all sort of worked out and try and get this thing running on an IV tube, we'll know where we are at. But that is now going to hold me up for a week, so I'm not expecting them through the post until Wednesday of next week, minimum. I didn't get the payment in quick enough to get the post today, if they would even have been bothered to send it today, which I highly doubt. Let's just hope they're a good reputable oh fuck that, I can't say it. Let's just hope they're a good company, and they jump on it straight away. Next video, I will probably attempt to put the back wheel in, because we've got a link bar to make from the wheel to the swing arm. We haven't got one in the box. That's another thing that's missing, along with a whole ton of other bits and bobs. So we'll get a bit of tube cut and we'll flatten the ends off, drill, and we'll bolt that onto the back wheel. So we're going to get the back wheel in. Because we've got no shock absorber fitted yet, we still might be able to leave this on the bench with the wheel in. Then I'm going to spin it around so the back wheel's over there, and we're going to get the engine fitted. So we're going to make sure we've got all the correct bolts by fitting the engine. We need to know that. We'll get the rocker covers put back on. What else are we going to do? We'll put the coils on. We'll start to put a few of the other electrics on, and any other little bits and bobs that we've got lying around that I think I can get away with, they will go on as well. But most of it's all front end stuff, to be honest. Most of it. I think that's the back brake, but I don't know if it's for this bike. That's the problem. Generally I don't know. I don't even know if it is the back brake. It could be clutch cable. No, that looked like a rod on there. So I have a spare rod. I can wire brush that came up at CM. We can play around with that if we have to. Not a problem. I don't remember bringing one back. God almighty, I can't believe how many items in here are missing. Got the throttle cable. I suppose that's something, isn't it? We've got foot pegs, but they've been cut off. Not by me. God knows, huh? So, oh, the other thing we can do, actually, the exhaust system. So once we get the engine on, we can play around with that exhaust system. So we can go up in my loft up there and see what I can find in pipes. I've got pipes all over the place. There's stacks of them. No, we're not using anything from that because that belongs to that other bike. We do have a set of handlebars up there. Don't know what state they're in. We do have some seats, but they're for gold wings. I really want to use them. I don't think that would work. I might tear that plastic seat apart for the foam. What else have we got? Various headlight pieces. We've got headlight brackets on those forks over there for a GS. So we could snitch those for the headlights. What else have we got? I'm just looking what there is that's bike orientated. There isn't a lot here. I got rid of a lot of it because I didn't think I was going to be doing any more. So we'd have to go through these two boxes to see what we've got. I'll have to pull them out, put them on a bench, and have a play around in there and see what we've got lying about that might be able to use for the build. Anyway, that's about as far as we can go in the conversation. There is another project coming up that's going to work alongside this, and I need a bike lift. And I was looking at the prices of those damn bike lifts, and they're flipping expensive, and I ain't got the money for one of them. But I do have the knowledge and the know-how on how to build one. Problem is I'm running out of room in this shed rapidly. So we are going to have a shift around in here. I need somewhere to put all this little lot, because this is actually where I build all my stuff. All my trikes have been built in this room. The shed in this end is not doing well. You can see it's all bowing over there, and that's not the angle of the camera. It generally is falling down. The whole of that bottom has rotted, and all that weight is slowly pulling the room down. I'm not happy about leaving my bikes in here while that's happening, and that bike over there doesn't have a side stand or centre stand, and that's leaning against the wall, a wall that's actually potentially falling in on itself. So I'm a little concerned, but if I was going to be building this bike up properly, it would be done in here. So we need, even if I don't use it for the moment, I mean, I can carry on building it up on the bench because it's not coming down from the bench as a complete bike. So what I might do is, when I've got it as far as I can take it, is build myself a bike lift, pull this all apart so I can build the bike lift on here and get this ready for paint. And then when I've done it, we'll have to move the C70 out of the way. I mean, that won't hurt being outside, to be honest, with a bike cover over it. So next week we'll alter that exhaust system if we can. Pretty sure I've got a trumpet. exhaust system around here somewhere, and we'll get that engine set in, and hopefully also we'll get all of this bit sorted out. The yokes, we'll get those on, the forks in, the front wheel in, the back wheel in, and we'll see what other damn bits we're missing. I'm struggling for conversation now because I'm just gash bagging for the sake of it. So this video is very short and sweet, I hope. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you possibly next week when we've got a little bit more work to do and a little bit more content to put up. But all we are concentrating on at the moment is this, nothing else. Bye.